you do about illegal immigrants and the issue of the border, Mexican border?
It's a great question. I actually have kind of a unique experience. I spent 3 years of my life patrolling the border. When I was in the Army, I was in the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment. Our mission statement was about 180 kilometers of the then East German border to secure it and guard it. Ran down into a little bit of Czechoslovakia. And I mention that because it's relevant. I've heard politicians from both parties say, you know, it's a big, long border, we can't secure it. I've done it. I mean, we knew everything that moved, and I'll concede, very different. The East Germans were trying to keep them in. Right? So the analogy is imperfect, to be sure. But the simple fact is that between fences and technology and people, if you want to know who's coming in and out of your country, you can. So there's the predicate. Can you do it? The answer is, I've seen it done. And I think we have to. For national security reasons, we absolutely must know who's coming in and out of our country. It's not just our southern border, by the way. We have ports of entry in Denver, Philadelphia, New York. We've got a big cargo port in Long Beach and Houston. We've got to know who's coming in and out of our country. And then the second thing I'll say, and I can talk about this a long time, we have to flip what we have today. Susan talked about my heritage. My parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, they're not Native Americans. We had family come through Ellis Island, on my father's side and on my mother's side. Today, we've got it backwards, though. Today, it's very difficult to get here legally. And it just takes a lot of energy and a little chutzpah to get here illegally. And that's backwards. And once we get it right, once we get that border security issue right, then we can begin to make really good decisions, like we've done for so many years in our nation's history, about how we're going to allow folks who want to come here to this incredibly great nation, and how we're going to do that in a way that is rational, and they come here legally, get to be full-blown participants in the American opportunity that I talked about when I started today. Yes, sir. One more. All right.
Yes. How many troops do we have in South Korea at this point?
I don't know how many we have there. I don't know. We had a full-blown division when I was there.
Yes.
So 6, 8, 10,000 Army. There's also a lot of Navy and Marines in and around. I don't know the exact number, but it is still a substantial force, both on the South Korean Peninsula and offshore, protecting our interests there. I don't know these things. All right. I'm going to end on one I know the answer to. Okay. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Mike, just about a mile and 3/4 southeast of here, there's an aircraft plant. They employ currently 6,000 to 7,000 people. Unless something drastic changes in about 6 months, half of those jobs are going away. Part of it's because nobody's flying airplanes. Part of it's because the unions won't give in. But I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that situation, because that's the tip of the iceberg for Wichita. There's more of that coming in these other areas.
I have a lot to say about that. I had the opportunity. Tom Buffenbarger, the head of the IAM, was in town 2 weeks ago as Beechcraft began its labor negotiations, and I wanted to meet with him because I wanted to tell him that my vision for America is right for the folks who work in those aircraft plants. So I wanted to talk to him about that, and I say that as a setup to my answer. They have got some real challenges out of Beechcraft, and the first answer is you got to identify the problem. And the problem is that they're selling airplanes in the global marketplace, and they've got to be permitted to build those airplanes in a way where they can be competitive against global competitors. You know, my opponent runs this commercial that talks about federal tax loopholes causing jobs to go overseas. I don't know what he's talking about. Those jobs aren't going overseas because of the federal tax loophole. They're going overseas because the risk-reward return for investing in Wichita, Kansas in an aircraft plant doesn't make sense today. That's the challenge we face as a nation. It's not just Wichita, Kansas. It's our manufacturing base everywhere. And so we have to be serious about that. So you take a look at what we've done just in the last 18 months and the direction of travel, which I'm sure the leaders of Beechcraft are thinking about. They're not just thinking about today. They're thinking about what's my cost structure going to look like 10, 12, 14 years from now. Right there, they're deciding whether to make significant capital investments in that facility. And when you have an administration that takes no value in that, finds their requests for reducing the cost of healthcare or reducing regulations to be wholly unreasonable, and when you see leaders make decisions about the future of their business, you find that they're not going to want to invest in South Central Kansas and in America. And I actually think that very battle, the battle we see playing out right here in our backyards, is exactly the battle that you see playing out in this election in November. They are fundamentally different visions about how you grow an economy, what it is you do to create jobs in America. One vision is a statist vision. One vision is a big government vision. If you just tax enough and redistribute enough and give enough grants out, well, good things will happen. And another vision says, no, it's a hard scrabble world out there, and we're going to let entrepreneurs go take risks, and we're going to put federal policy in place that gives them an opportunity, not a guarantee, an opportunity to go compete. And today, our manufacturing guys here in the 4th District of Kansas are at an enormous disadvantage against their international competitors. And I am encouraged. I think the union leadership gets that. They truly do. I think they're beginning to understand that it is not a labor management issue. It is about how are we going to make sure that we have really, really competitive products. And then we'll fight about how it is we're going to make sure that the folks that they represent and represent vigorously are going to make sure that their families get taken care of. I assure you that the leaders at that facility, and I think now the union leaders too, get it. And we're going to work really hard to put themselves in a competitive place. And if we can get the federal government to go do that and help them, we've got a real opportunity to keep those folks and actually grow that business back. I'm sorry at the end to give such a long answer,